Hello and welcome back to the channel. Hey, I'm Ron with Ideal Industries. In this segment, which is part 5 of the Smart Home series of videos, we're going to talk about telephone circuits here and talk about how you go about wiring up a bunch of phones inside the home. Now today, we'd prefer you home run all your wiring out to all your outlets, and then we're going to tie them all together back here inside the panel to an incoming phone line. And we have a couple options on how we might go about doing that, so let's take a look at them. Well, option one of terminating a bunch of phones together inside of a home would be to use a board like this one you might find. And when you look at these kind of boards like this, you'll find that in this case there's 10 connections on this board, and they're all spliced together. And so if I could actually take the board and turn around backwards, you'll see that the little traces on the board are splicing all the connections together. So here all the white blues are together, all the blues, and so on and so forth. Now this board is untwisting a lot more than a ½ inch of cable, and that's why it's only good for phone circuits, not data circuits. And while we might be pulling catenary cable into this board, the board is untwisting a lot more than a ½ inch of cable, which is all you're allowed to untwist with data circuits. So it's only good for phone circuits, no good for data. No good for data. So this is almost like taking all the white blues here on all these cables and stripping the jacketing off and twisting them together with a wing nut, and and doing that with the blues and the white oranges and the white oranges, or the oranges, and so it's just one big splice is what the board really is. Okay, but obviously this looks pretty nice. And so one of these, it would represent my incoming phone line, and it would bring wire from the outside of the house, and I could really punch it down on any of these. It wouldn't really matter because they're all the same, and I could bring up to 4 separate phone lines in, and then go feed again 9 outlets in 9 different rooms. Now this board can be mounted really about anywhere in the house. You wouldn't have to put it in this nice little bracket or in this nice panel, and you can mount them just about anywhere in the house. And you can also go out and buy other options like these little boxes here, and these little boxes have a similar board in them that we would mount someplace in the house, and we can mount it on a wall and run wire in and out of here. And again, you got a similar setup. You got 9 connections. One represents the incoming phone lines from the outside of the house. We can feed 8 rooms here together off this board, and then there's a little testing spot here on this particular board as well. So again, there are options for tying a bunch of phones together inside the home, but this would be option 1 inside my Leviton panel, and next we'll show you option 2. Now our second option for distributing phones utilizing this Leviton panel would be not to buy this board here at all, to go out and buy this one instead. And when we look at this board, this is right here, it says line distribution board, and it's for phone circuits is what it's for. And there's a connector like you see here, but there's only one of them here. And this is for my incoming phone lines. And right underneath it, it says from demarcation. So I'm going to take a Cat5 cable and run it in from the outside of the house to here and terminate it onto this board. And that's my incoming phone lines. And again, I can terminate up to 4 pairs or 4 incoming phone lines, which should help most people out. Okay. Now, right above it is a connector that says security underneath this, and I'm going to ignore this at this point, but if I wanted to tie a security system into the panel, I could using that connection. Now, the connectors go from this white board to this little connection here on the panel, and right next to that connector on the green board, you'll see the word test. And that's a testing point on my panel. So if I have a telephone problem in the home, and I don't know if the problem's in the house or outside the house, I can run down here and plug a tester into that, or or phone into that. And if I get a dial tone, well, then I know my problem's in the house because I got tone or telephone service to there. Okay. Now you might have noticed I removed that little jumper cable. Now that little jumper cable needs to be in here. If you remove that jumper cable, all these connections go dead. So this connector here is spliced into all these other connectors on the board, so you got to have it in there. Okay. Now another key component of this phone service is to feed the outlets in the rooms. Now we're going to do that by using this board over here. Now these boards are 5E rated. They can be used for phone circuits. They can be used for data circuits. And each of these boards will feed up to 6 Cat5E runs to outlets in the house. So all these wires coming off of here are feeding an outlet. And right on that little green board right there is a number that says 1, and that means that this first connection you see here is wired to that first connector in the top here. So this and this are the same. And the connector right below this would be number 3, and this would be number 5. So there's 3 connections here, and on this side you see another 3. Now above this one it says 2. So that means this connector here is wired to the second one. This one here would be wired to the 4th, and this one going to the 6th. So this little board handles 6 5E runs out through the house. Okay. Now, if we want to make an outlet into a phone jack, we very simply would take a jumper cable like this that the panel will come with, and we will then take this wire here that feeds, say, bedroom 2, and we want to make it into a phone jack. Well, we very simply take the other end of that cable and plug it into the phone board over here. And if I plugged it into the one over here, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, it would jump up to 4 lines to the outlet in the room. Now, if you only had one active phone, it's only going to jump line 1. So, but what's neat about these type of setups is that they are referred to as cross connects. And cross connects make it easy to make some moves, adds, and changes to the setup. And what I mean by that is, say we don't want line 1 through 4 going to the outlet in the room, we only want line 1 and 4. Well, then I would plug that connector into the connection on the panel that says 1, 4. And now we just line 1, 4 to the outlet in the room. And if we don't want line 1, 4, we could plug it into this one over here that says 2, 3. And now we jump line 2 and 3 to an outlet in a room. And so you can see, again, we can make real quick changes to that setup in the building. Okay. And if we wanted to add another one to another outlet in a room, we would very simply, again, grab another patch cord and then plug, again, that someplace into the phone board and jump another phone line to another outlet feeding an outlet in, say, bedroom 3. And again, what's neat about these systems is we can quickly come back here and disconnect it if we need to as well, and now make that outlet in that room maybe a data jack instead by simply taking a patch cord and going from here and plugging it maybe into the router that might be sitting in my panel. So again, the outlet could do phone or data. In this case, we're using it for phone. So that would be option 2, and more of a little bit more cleaner setup for a typical structured wiring system in a home today. Well, folks, I hope that explains something more about the distribution panel for you. And, thanks for coming. I'm Ron with Ideal Industries. We'll plan on seeing you the next time.